Good afternoon mga katribu, this is Matthew Pirante-Pérez and welcome to another episode of Spotlight. As we continue to celebrate women this International Women's Month, joining me today is FAMAS nominated actress and multi-awarded singer and songwriter. Please welcome the lovely and talented Nicole Laurel.
Thank you so much, Matthew, and thank you to everyone who's watching today. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, hello Nicole, I'm so happy to have you here with us.
I know, I'm happy to see you in the flesh. This is the first time I'm doing a Tribune interview in the flesh with you guys.
Oh well, we're honored to have you here. Thrilled even. So, how have things been for you lately?
Oh, it has been a whirlwind of learning experiences in life and in my work, and I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I get. Because during the pandemic, a lot of us artists were really wandering, and we're starting to pick up the pieces now, I think, and I'm grateful for whatever comes my way. So I hope more things come my way and I get to work deeper and deeper into the industry.
Well, I'm fairly certain a lot of things will be coming your way because of all the things you've recently accomplished, which we will get to in a bit. But first, let's talk more about your background and your journey to being Nicole Laurel. Please tell us about your beginnings.
Well, I was surrounded by art and music from both sides of my family, and they're all theater artists, musicians, visual artists, painters. But to tell you the truth, I wanted to be a lawyer. That was what I wanted. That's what I applied for in college.
Okay.
Kaso, hindi ako pumasa. So undergrad. So I took my second choice,
All right.
not the pre-law course. My second choice was literature because I also wanted to be a journalist, just like you guys. So kumbaga, lodi ko kayo.
Oh,
Here at
thank
Tribune.
you.
That's true.
Thank you.
I really took that up. So I majored in creative nonfiction and literary criticism. But it was somewhere along the lines of in college that I started to dabble in music because fate had it that I recovered from a freak accident where I lost my use of my left arm for a couple months. And during that time, my musician friends would visit me and entertain me, and we would jam. And that's when I realized, hey, I kind of like this music thing, but how do I go into it? Because believe it or not, I think my mom, being a musician, she knew how hard it was. She's a musician and a single mom. So she was kind of scared when I said I wanted to do music because she's like, uh-oh, I know what that's like. And guess what she applied to be in college?
Lawyer?
Yes. So she was like, uh-oh, I know this path. It's not going to be an easy one. So I had several day jobs.
Okay.
I worked as a teacher, an English teacher in a training center, which unfortunately is closed now. But at the time, I was working there part-time. I sold medical equipment. I was rehashing ukay-ukay things and re-sewing them and selling them again, which explains my affinity towards the fashion industry. I'm not a designer, but I respect the craft. And I also worked in a restaurant part-time. So it was those four hustles that kind of slowly built a network. I was making friends of the most random kind you can imagine, right? And then eventually, these friends would be like, oh, I have a party, can you sing? Oh, it's my daughter's ganyan, can you sing? Oh, do you also host? Do you do this? Do you do that? And so through building friends and hustling, I guess that's that's the people who gave me the opportunities, and I'll always be grateful for the people who gave me my very first gigs, and that's where it started.
Wow, what can I say? Actually, dyan po talaga nagsisimula lahat. Even for me,
Really?
I worked in the BPO industry since I was 18 years old.
Nice.
And I burnt out at 23. And I prayed. I said, sarcastically, Lord, I'd sooner work in an actual graveyard than be in a graveyard shift again.
Oh my.
Lo and behold, I became Loyola's funeral director for 4
Are
years.
you serious? Galing
I'm
ni God
serious.
talaga.
I'm serious. Nag-apply ako sa funeraria, natanggap ako, and I was there for
Wow.
4 years. I was they call it funeral director, but it's more like a memorial host, coordinator. Think of it as like the Martha Stewart of death.
Yes,
Hello, ma'am,
yes,
I'm
yes.
so sorry for your loss, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to walk you through the steps of what's going to happen next. Normally, on either the cremation day or the burial itself, that's when I'll show up. Sometimes they walk in and I kind of talk to them through their grief. So, pag nahimasmasan na sila, that's when I will walk them through which casket to pick. Because minsan, when we're
Right.
sobrang lutang,
Yes.
we regret the choices we make. So,
Yes,
before
yes,
I
yes.
lead them to where, on picking the chapel, picking the casket, isigurado ko na nahimasmasan na sila.
Yes,
Because the last
tama.
thing, you want this to be something na when they remember it, it's decent. Hindi yung parang, that's what I chose. Yun ba yun? Diba?
No,
Kasi lutang sila eh.
you have my utmost respect because it takes a certain kind of personality and a skill set to deal with people who are grieving and who are in shock.
Yeah.
And God gave you those gifts and gave you that BPO experience because you are dealing with people
Yeah.
who are, not always
Yes,
pleasant, right?
yes, that's true.
And when I lost my father, I'll never forget the guy, the funeral director who I was corresponding with at the time. His name is Ian. Walked me through those decisions, and I was absolutely lutang. I couldn't choose a
Diba? You
casket.
couldn't choose a casket. You can't choose a chapel. It's all what I did. What I normally do is, I'll let you go through your emotions. You can cry. You can cry in
Yeah.
front of me. I'll give you your tissue and all. I'll play a little bit of like a grief counselor in the sense that it may get a little personal, but I don't mind. Say whatever you wish to say. Once you've let it all out, and sometimes it takes an hour, I'm fine. I'm just gonna be sitting with you. If the if the client isn't the formal type, I'll even smoke with them. Sige, let it out, let it out. Now, pag tapos na sila, and I can see na they're being level-headed na ulit. And I don't have to sell them anything because they've already decided to come to us. That's
Right.
when I ask, based on how you know your father, what kind of casket do you think you would appreciate? Don't make them decide for
Right.
themselves because it'd be like, I don't know. Instead, make them think what the person lying inside would
Yes,
like. So
tama.
you get to engage their brain, their grieving brain would start thinking, and then build on that.
Yes,
You build
yes.
on that, you build on the chapel, and before you know it, everything is good. But I also tell them sometimes when I see that they're still not thinking rationally, you might want to rethink that. Why? That particular casket is more suited for, say, a person of a certain age
Right,
or
right.
person of a certain gender, parang ganon. So, but most of the time, engage them, help them,
Yes.
help them make informed decisions. And when they're done, I give my number and I say I'll be in the office if you need anything. If I'm not in the office and you need to reach me, here's my cell. There, I was with them for 4 years, and
Wow.
like you said, it's the network. Can you sing? Can you I can't sing. I used to, but I can't sing anymore.
We should sing.
I
Let's
kind
do
of
it.
I
Let's
kind
do
of
it.
ruined.
Let's do it.
I already ruined my voice. But can you host? All of the things that we've done in the past, brought us to where we are now, one way or
Absolutely.
another, for better or worse.
Yes.
All the things we've done before led us to where we are,
Oh, I believe that. Especially the mistakes.
especially the mistakes.
Especially the mistakes.
When I became a journalist, it was an accident. I just got
Really?
invited to write.
Oh, okay.
And I said, I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer. And she asked me, this is my aunt, by the way, who I've never
Okay.
met until that time, a
Okay.
distant relative. She asked me to write an article. I did. I have no formal training. I took up finance. Unlike
Wow.
you took up, you took up literature and creative nonfiction. I only relied on the articles I've read in the past.
Okay.
If you ask me to break down articles technically, I can't.
Right,
If you
right,
ask me to explain the rules of grammar, it's something I play by ear.
right.
If it sounds right, chances are it is.
Yes, yes.
But that's pretty much it. If you make me explain the 16 rules of subject-verb agreement, I'd be like,
Right,
okay.
right.
But yeah, I got invited to write, and the editor-in-chief summoned me and asked me if I wrote this. I was very meek and shy, and yes, sir, I did. Did you ask help from your tita? No. Is this plagiarized? From being meek to being assertive. Did you ask help from your tita? No. is this plagiarized? Absolutely not.
Yeah,
That's
of
what I'm like,
course,
absolutely not.
of course, you would have
And
to
then
stand
he
your
was
ground.
reading it. I like this. It's raw. It's nothing I've read before. It's a technique not normally seen in other people's work. You're hired. And then my
Lovely.
reaction was, I'm not looking for a job. I'm not looking for a job, and I wasn't expecting this to be a job interview. I don't care. You're hired. And that started my journey because at the time, after the funeral director thingy, I got lured back into the BPO industry because of a
Okay.
very lucrative offer.
Yes, of course.
And but I burnt out again, so I bought a car. I became a Grab driver.
Wow, galing.
So
Respect.
habang nag-Grab, I was writing for a magazine. It was a weekly. It was like the Philippines equivalent of Newsweek, parang ganon.
Nice, got it.
So I was mentored by the editors there, and the offers just kept pouring and pouring and pouring, and eventually I made my way to the Daily Tribune, and
Nice.
I was able to explore other skills that I was able to hone in the past because of previous employment. It's
Right.
kind of like yours.
Yeah, you know, God's leading. It's really God's leading.
I would say
I could
so.
not have planned this for myself, for sure.
I agree because it is way too elaborate for us to have orchestrated it ourselves.
Yeah, and sometimes when you fall on your butt and you make those mistakes, you think that, uh-oh, this is it. This is the end. I'm done for.
you know,
But it's not.
it's not. And Mirza Season, the former EIC of Cosmos, said
Of course,
something
yes.
really interesting. She's a life coach now, by the way, and I recently guested her.
Galing.
Lovely, lovely woman. Go lang ng go. Bakit? What's the worst that could happen?
Right.
What's the worst that could happen? Pwede kang mapahiya, pwede kang maano, but what's the worst that could happen? It's not career ending, nor will it end your life. Keep going, keep trying.
Yeah.
So, ano yan, yung motto niya is go lang ng go, join lang ng join, and then you will find where you want to be.
Right.
Diba?
Right.
And yun nga, in your case, alam mo tumayo yung balahibo ko when you said creative nonfiction. I was like, wow. Because as a writer, these are things that I truly love. Although I never really took classes, but I read books. But let's go back to you being a child.
Oh,
okay? Let's
okay.
go back to you being a child.
Thank you for that little part of our lives that we shared. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. So as a child, you sang for Les Miserables composer. That would be Claude Michel Schoenberg. What was that experience like? Imagine the composer of Les Mis.
You know, I was 5 years old when that happened. So I think in my little girl brain, I did not really know the magnitude of what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it was more child's play for me. I knew he was a very important man, but I was 5 years old.
Yes.
So like, what is an important man in my head, right? So my mom, you know, made me look nice. She fixed my hair. I borrowed my older cousin Jade's dress from the baul.
Okay.
And it was too big for me, and I was just, you know, flipping around like a little kid. And they were just having dinner in my lolo's house back then. And it was a very casual piano side jamming with my Tito Kokoy, who is
Yes.
the connection. And they asked me to sing the song of Cosette in Les Miserables, and they asked if I'd be interested to play little Cosette, and of course the family was all happy about it. But I was a baby.
So it was a yes for you, but did you do it?
No. I stayed in school because I think the promise I made my parents, both my parents, is that I would finish all my scholastics before even touching anything to do with performing or showbiz.
Okay.
So there were offers here and there, like, but I was very, very strict with that. That anything I would do entertainment-wise would be an after-school activity. But I cannot leave my studies unless, you know, it's a necessity. Let's say I had to leave my studies to put food on the table, then fine.
Then fine.
But as long as kaya pa namin mag-aral, I will finish that. And
But
that's a
what if
promise
that
I
was
kept.
the way to put food on the table?
Yeah, what if it was, right? But then again, because at the time my father was still alive, and he was still able to provide for my school, hindi ko na na-consider
Hindi na na-consider kasi
yung option na yun.
may magpo-provide pa.
Yes. But had fate had it different and I would be put in a position where I would have to put food on the table, I'm sure naman that they would allow
Yes.
a different path for me. But it just so happens that I was made to keep that promise to my parents. So I'm a late bloomer in terms of entertainment. Kasi dun ko lang siya because a lot of them start as children, as teenagers. Ako medyo mas after college na ako nag-ano.
Oh, you mean late bloomer in contrast to them?
Yes, in contrast to most artists who are groomed earlier.
Sa bagay, that's true,
Right,
that's true.
right.
Although kasi ako, on a personal note, I don't believe in late bloomers.
Yeah, same.
Kasi
That's
parang-
what they'll tell you. But I mean, you bloom
Yeah.
when you bloom.
You bloom when you bloom, and sometimes, I don't know if there's the right term for it, you bloom even more beautifully because you bring with you experiences that not everybody
Yes.
has.
That's true because the culmination of your experiences as an artist, the culmination of my experiences as an artist will be completely different.
Yes.
So even if you get to people who look the same, who sound the same, who have similarities in their mannerisms to play the same role, they're gonna attack it totally differently.
And you will see the nuances, the
will see the
differences and
nuances.
all that.
Yeah, ibang ano yun ibang combination of
Yes.
life experiences are
That's true.
behind that kasi.
And how we move and how we act, even when we, as artists, we bring characters to life. That's what we do. But given our life experiences, laging iba-iba yung atake. We do our best to embody the character. But
True.
our approach would greatly vary.
Yes.
That's what makes us unique as artists.
Right.
Diba?
And that's why I'm so grateful to the people who have given me opportunities, whether as a singer, an actress, or a host, because I feel like they were able to see beyond, what I look like or what I sound like,
Yeah.
and be like, oh no, there's something there. There's a little bit of a spice, an ingredient there that makes me me.
Yes.
Which
yes.
which should be applicable to every unique artist out there. And that's my wish for every artist, that not only are we working and getting paid to do what we do, but we also bring that distinct flavor to the table, and that we celebrate those diverse flavors as
Something
Filipinos.
only you can give, or something
Right.
only another
Or
artist
she or
can
he
give.
or whoever can
Yes.
give. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what makes everybody unique that's what makes everybody unique in one form or another.
Yes.
But when you mentioned earlier about being a late bloomer in contrast to your family members, what was it like growing up in a musical family? Particularly having a grandmother who's a national artist.
I
By the way, mga ka-Tribune, Nicole's grandmother is music and UP Professor Emeritus in Voice, Fides Cuyugan Asensio.
Hi, Aba. I call her Aba,
You
which
call
is
her
short
Aba?
for Abuelita. Hi, Aba. She's very active on Facebook, so I will tag her. I love you so much, and she inspires me.
I'm not sure if your grandmother and I are friends on Facebook, but I'm
Okay.
fairly certain we have a lot of mutuals. I'm fairly certain.
Yes, for sure. I wouldn't doubt it at all. She's
I'm-
quite out there.
She's out there.
Yeah.
Kasi when I was reading, oh, okay. When I was, of course, when I was reading more about, it's like, oh, I get it. Right. So, even Doy Laurel, like,
Yes. I mean, had he been around today, he would also be active, but he passed
he
away.
passed away in 2004
Yes,
in
yes.
California, I
But
believe.
his social media account is his museum, where you can see all of the letters that were ever written, his entire career. It's all there.
If he's still alive, he would have already breached 100, no? Or wala pa naman?
I think he would be around 93.
93
today.
pa lang.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm bad at math, guys. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But
Pero yun.
I think 93 would be around the age.
If I remember correctly, he died in San Francisco ba? Or California? Somewhere in
Yes,
California.
in Stanford. I was actually there during his last weeks
In
with a
his
few
last
members of my
weeks.
family. Yes.
So this was in like October 2004?
January. So
January.
around that time, towards the end of the year, he was already admitted. But his final passing was around January, which I was already back in Manila, but my mom and her siblings were there.
Yeah. Interestingly, when I was, segue lang po. Interestingly, I was searching for used cars.
Oh, okay.
And out of nowhere, there was a Mercedes-Benz S500. And according
Wow.
to the listing, it was formerly owned by Salvador Doy Laurel.
When was this? I'm sorry, I'm not aware.
Probably 6 months to 8 months ago. It was a
Wow.
Mercedes-Benz.
How recent naman?
I'm not even sure if it was his personal car or if it was the car he used when he was
Wow.
in office. But the listing read, formerly owned by Salvador Doy Laurel.
Baka hindi ko na naabutan yung car na yon. I'm not sure.
It's a Mercedes-Benz S500, S350, I can't remember. But
Wow.
I saw it and I was like, oh. Pero ano yun eh, V12 engine yun, so
Yeah, it'll be a little costly
it'll
to maintain.
it'll be quite costly. I mean, expedition pa nga lang, ayoko nang
Oo.
ilabas eh. Kasi parang, feeling ko pag pinapainit ko pa lang yung makina, 500 na to ah. 500.
Gas guzzlers.
Yeah, so having Fides Cuyugan Asensio as your grandmother, was this something that influenced your choices? Or is the desire to perform something you've always wanted to do?
So yes and no. Yes, because she lives and breathes art. That I mean, she's a walking, talking movie opera. I'm serious. Like she speaks in full falsetto. Like, oh, Nicole. Ganon. So, siprado ko yan because her life story was actually my undergrad thesis. It's entitled Opera, My Master, My Slave. And the way I wrote it was structured after an opera. So rather than chapters, you have a prelude, an overture, and Act 1, Act 2.
Act 2.
And Act 3 is a montage of her most iconic characters, where she was always known to play the crazy lady, Juana La Loca, Sisa. I think she played Sisa more than 50 times. And I'll talk about Sisa a little bit more later, if that's okay, because that's a very important part of my life.
I'm sure, but since you mentioned Opera, My Master, My Slave,
Yes.
wasn't that also your book?
Yes, that is my undergrad thesis. We never really published it mainstream because there are more chapters to write now. She's still alive.
Of course.
So I need to update the book.
You need to update the book.
There's a lot more that needs, especially since she's been awarded National Artist. I haven't filled that in because this book was more than 10 years ago now. So there are more chapters, but hopefully one day we get to, publish. And she is also writing her own memoir. So it
Can't
will
wait
be
to
an
read it.
interesting marriage of the
Yes.
stories. And her, like I said, she lives and breathes performing from childhood. And that was during the war. And I think a lot about the book, if one day you guys get to read it, shaped her life, because what is it like to perform during a time where people are just being shot left and right all around her? Like there is a story where a Japanese soldier came to their house on Christmas Eve, and they were frightened to death because they thought they were going to be killed. But he wasn't one of the ones who were out to kill. He just wanted to sing songs with them. But the next day, because it was a war, tracer bullets burned down their home. And some of the only things they saved were photographs, thank God, and the piano.
And the piano.
The piano was out in the garden, and they would sing around it. And so imagine that childhood where all the world has gone crazy, but here you are with the piano. And that shaped her life. And that was the energy she brought into our lives. So as a child, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, even younger, I was probably not aware of the gravity of why performing is so important to her. It literally saved her life. But I felt like that persona is what she embodied with everything she did, said, and all the people she encountered and what she imparted to her students. So I was never really a formal student of hers, but I was there piano side when she would train some of her best. So I just be, that excited kid.
Ringside seats.
Yeah, just watching, her most famous proteges learn their craft. And nanggugulo lang ako dun. I would be in her drawer, like playing with all her scarves, trying to make a costume. And she embraced it. She never said, hey, gulo mo, none of that. It was very like,
she encouraged creativity,
yeah, she's
and
expressing
self-expression.
herself. So that's the energy she brought into my life, and it allowed me to find my own identity. But my own identity is very different from hers also. because she is a very, very well-respected, probably the most well-respected today, classical singer who really went through all the ranks and all the hardships. And me, I'm a little bit of a rebel, you know. I'm a little bit rock and roll. I'm a little bit, you know, more woo.
Yes.
The tattoos and the band life.
Speaking of tattoos, I was looking at it earlier. It's
Thank
such a
you.
lovely tattoo. Is is that an? It looks like an. I can't
Yes,
tell if it's an elephant or if it's a fox, but there's a trunk.
Yeah, it's an elephant. It's actually a version of, inspired by cosmic elephants, which is Salvador Dali's painting,
Yes.
which was my father's favorite painting. So it's a tribute to my father.
It's a tribute to your father.
Yeah, he loved this painting, so it makes me remember him. I know it's kind of big for for someone like me, but you know,
I love it.
that's the thing. That's what Lola Fee does a little bit different. Like, she's a rebel in her own right with her thematic choices. Even the scales she uses when she composes music. It's a lot of minor, it's a lot of dark. She's not afraid to go dark. And I think I got that in my tastes also. I like things a little bit unusual. I'm not, you know, not everything I like is all pretty and
Yeah.
bright and rainbowy. I like to go dark. Even the roles I like are a little bit heavier. And she inspired me to do that. But style-wise, we're very different. I'm a little bit rock and roll, and that's somewhat a no-no for classical singers, vocally.
That's true.
But
Which we will get to. Actually, I
Yeah.
have a question about that later. But you mentioned you mentioned you're a little bit of a rebel, right? In my family, a lot are very liberal. There's a running joke in our family. If you want to rebel against the family, be a nun.
there you go. Okay.
You know, when we think of nuns, it's the opposite of rebellion. But in our family, if you want to be a rebel, be a priest, be a nun.
That sounds colorful. That sounds a lot like our families.
So when you know when before my mother would say this, when people say that, you know, your son is a little rebellious, he's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, my mother would say if he wanted to be rebellious, he would have been a priest.
That's
because that would
interesting.
shock.
That is interesting.
Oh, also, I also want to bring this up. You were a dean's lister in the De La Salle University.
Where on earth does it say? No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
And, you know, a Jose Rizal awardee as well, di ba? Was it hard juggling all of this? I mean, regular people do have a hard time juggling several things. I know what it's like to juggle. You know what it's like to juggle, but is it difficult?
I'm gonna throw myself under the bus because they might think I'm super smart naman. No, I'm really bad at math. I failed math so many times. And if I didn't fail math, baka mas mataas pang nakuha kong, I don't know, award or whatever in school. But I think the reason why I started to do better at school was I fell in love with literature. And it was my professor, Dr. David Bayot, who inspired me to shift to creative nonfiction.
Okay.
And when I was taught by him and many other faculty members of the literature department, that's when I enjoyed school. I didn't mind waking up early because I liked what I was doing. Pero nung mga general subjects pa lang, ay nako, rebelde pa ako noon. And I'm sure my friends will attest to that. That, Dean's Lister siya?
But when you found when you
I found my
found the not the courses, the subjects that you were really
Yes.
passionate about, di ba?
Yeah.
That's when our focus really just that's when we become laser focused.
I think it's natural because like even a child, if a child starts to do something and becomes good at it,
Yeah.
naiengganyo siya kasi they can see results eh. 'Di ba? Parang they want to do it more. Unless they're forced into it maybe, but like if you allow them to discover who they are and what they like to do and they start to get good at it and it rewards them, then you want to do it more. And that's what happened to me. And so I ended up doing better at school, but then, you know, I didn't become a lawyer.
Well, that's
I
fine.
became a rock and roll chick, and that's fine. That's how life turned out. So let it be.
For whatever it's worth, I was supposed to be a banker. Instead,
Right?
I became an actor, became a journalist. So,
Yeah.
cheers.
Life, that is life. You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
Now, creative nonfiction. You mentioned creative nonfiction, De La Salle University, and all. I want to know, who are your favorite authors? I'm dying to ask that question.
Oh my gosh. I haven't read a book in a long time. I'm sorry to my profs because since I became a musician, I kind of left that life behind. But if I may mention na lang one of my favorite books, and it's actually, it's an art book. There's a lot of paintings in it. It's a series of 6 books by Nick Bantock, starting with Griffin and Sabine.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's kind of like sneaking into somebody's mail because there are envelopes you open, and you know, you go into the illicit relationship of 2 people, and you wonder how they know each other. But it's very interesting and surreal and time jumpy. And what's cool about the 6 books is, as a reader, the way it's written, you can actually end the story at any certain book. So after book 1, actually, tapos na yung story. But no, there's a book 2.
There's a book 2.
Or you can end it there, or you can end it.
There's
on
no
book 4.
cliffhanger. It's more.
It's
read
all
at your own leisure,
cliffhangers.
diba?
It's all cliffhangers.
It's all cliffhangers.
It's all cliffhangers. So, as a writer reader, that gave me a lot of freedom, and that's why I like it so much. But that's one of many. I won't go into it na lang because my memory will fail me for sure.
As for me, I like Joan Didion.
Ooh,
Definitely
okay.
gorgeous body of work. Joan Didion, Slouching Towards Bethlehem, The Year of Magical Thinking, The Book of Common Prayer, Pray It As It Lays.
Nice.
Blue Nights, The Year of Magical Thinking and Blue Nights, those were the most heartbreaking books that she came up with. The last one, let me tell you what I mean. I believe that's her last book before she passed on. I have a copy. I haven't gotten around to reading it.
Please send me your reading list because I should be reading more. I haven't in a while, and that's the honest truth. I've been focused.
If you want to laugh, while reading something really incisive, Nora Ephron.
Okay.
Anything from Nora Ephron.
Got it.
And we will know more about Nicole when Spotlight returns.
Iba ng panahon, ang dami ng bago ngayon. Pati ang mundo natin, well, nagbago na rin. Buti ano bayan, bigger, better na. You can buy it sa centers, pati sa mga partners, may online pa at app. You can buy it with your fingers, still phone remittance and more. Online shopping, you can buy it all. Di mapadala, you can buy it all. Anumang pera transaction, you can buy it all.
Sabayan ang pagbabago ng mundo for all your pera transactions, all new Bayan.
Nasa kamay mo ang swerte, ngunit hindi ito isang laro na para lang sa iyo. Dahil bukod sa pag-asang maging milyonaryo, ang pagtangkilik mo sa loto at ipapang produkto ng PCSO ay nakakalikom ng pondo para sa mga programang pangkalusugan, tulong at serbisyong medikal at kawang-gawa.
Lahat ng minimithi makakamtan sa PCSO.
Fiber is the free and secure way to connect with friends and family, anywhere. Send messages and make phone and video calls for free. Download Viber now.
With Globe, our steps can lead us to millions of doors opening, millions of paths unfolding, and millions of reasons to keep going. Now's the time to be with a network that gets better every day for you.
Hello mga katribu, welcome back to Spotlight. Still with me is Nicole Laurel. Alright, so you were formerly the front woman for a rock band called General Luna. Is it General Luna? General Luna?
We called it General Luna.
General Luna. Before, why General Luna?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think the band had anything to do with naming it that. It was we were under Warner Music back then. I'm still with Warner now, but it's a different team. It was a Warner office contest. I think they had like a name the band contest. That
Okay.
was the winning.
And that was the winning name.
But it's not affiliated with General Antonio Luna. In fact, when the movie came out, the band was long disbanded na.
Disbanded.
But it was cool because we got a little bit of a resurgence. Like people would tag us and we're like, oh, thanks for remembering us.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
2010 to 2013, ano?
Yeah, we launched in 2010 and we disbanded around 2013, 2014. But we were already jamming prior.
But why rock as a genre?
I've always loved rock. I've always listened to rock. My mom and my dad listened to rock. My mom's favorite band is Pink Floyd. That's one of my favorite bands. But I think also at the time, we were doing it for fun. And I had a rock band prior to General Luna underground stuff. There was a vacancy for women in rock at the time. So I think it was a good time for us to, have a voice.
Yes.
And I'm grateful if that voice happened to inspire other girls to, rock it out.
Oh.
Then good.
I would agree. Can't agree more. But from rock, you moved to jazz, soul, and blues. Was it difficult in terms of voice to move genres? Because, when we sing rock, it's different from when we sing jazz.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
Our voice, we change it.
I love this question. Thank you for asking this question. Well,
welcome.
in terms of influences, I think the jazz standard stuff was always there from childhood because that's what they would play in our family functions. My lolo and my lola would sing that sort of stuff. Tito Kokoy would sing that sort of stuff. So I grew up around that. It was there. It's part of my system. I just never went into it.
Okay.
How I got into it is when General Luna disbanded, I needed to do more and more corporate events. And again, there was a vacancy for women my age to do that sort of stuff.
Right.
There wasn't really anyone in my age group who was really pushing for that stuff. And it was there. It wasn't my forte. I don't consider myself really to have a forte.
Okay.
But I felt like it was something I could bring to the table that was done in a different way.
Right.
Because my voice isn't so clean. It still has a little bit of the grit from the rock years. But it isn't so dirty naman also na in the, it's right there in the middle.
But for me, grit is good.
I love grit.
Grit has character.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the best singer out there. I can name 50,000 singers. No, dami, no?
Dami.
I can name a lot of singers who are much, much better than me technically. But I feel like that rock flavor is what makes me me, and that's what I can bring to the table and sound different doing when I sing standards. Because standards are such beautiful, timeless songs.
Yeah.
When you sing them in the now, you kind of want to give a flavor that's different.
Yes.
Because they've been sung a lot of times. And everyone, when you sing a standard, you act it out. You tell a story. And,
Yes.
and that grit that me or whoever singer might have when they sing it, that's what makes it, special and different.
It's the song equivalent of classic recipes. Everybody
Right.
has a take on it.
Right.
Everybody has a different way of doing it. I mean, when you say you're not the greatest singer in the world, let's talk about the likes of Madonna, Debbie Harry, Britney Spears. They don't exactly have the greatest voices. You and I can attest to this. They don't.
I'm afraid to attest to it.
I can. However, their voice is theirs.
Yes.
They own it. They own it. They use it, and how they sound. Even Cher, how she sounds is
Yeah,
right. So how? Okay,
Auto
wait.
tune. That was like the using auto tune.
Auto-tune for Auto-tune for the ages, Believe era, Cher 1998.
Okay.
But their voices, they cannot be compared to the likes of Maria Callas, Ofra Haza.
Of course.
All the other great opera singers, Anna Netrebko. Who's this other singer that I've been thinking of? Aida Garifulina. There you go.
Of course.
Their voices are different. They're trained differently,
Right.
But for all that Madonna, Britney, Debbie Harry cannot belt out songs the way Callas can, the way Aida Garifulina can, it's still theirs.
They don't need to belt
And they
out
don't need
songs
to.
that way because they have their own
Their own
sound.
flavor, their
Yeah.
own sound.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing when it comes to you being a rock singer and then moving to jazz. It's yours.
Well, I was told a lot of times, stick to one, stick to one, stick to one. And I was like, okay, but I can't. But so, you know, there are singers that inspire me not to stick to one. Like, look at Lady Gaga. I know
Lady
she
Gaga.
made a name for herself in the pop dance genre, but my goodness, she can do anything.
She can do anything.
Anything and act. So when she did all of that,
Yes.
you know, I was
Diba?
kind of like, ay, pwede pala.
And she even won an Oscar.
Right,
She
diba?
won an Oscar for A Star Is Born, but not as an actress. I believe it was for
For the
Best
sound,
Original Song,
yes,
I
yes.
think. Yes.
As a writer, as a multifaceted performer, and as an actress, I mean, that's testament that, you know, maybe you don't have to stick to one thing. I don't know. I'm not a professional manager, but I like doing different things.
It's nice to master one thing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to have that one particular niche or that one particular thing
Right.
you're really good at. However, as artists, we're creative people. We don't
Yeah.
just stop there.
Yeah,
We never do.
right.
A lot of people never did, and a lot of people will never do.
Right.
It would always be, we want to try this, we want to try that. We know our limits,
Mm-hmm.
so there are things we wouldn't try, but there are so many things that we would.
Right. I think what's important to me is, like music-wise or song-wise or singing-wise, whatever genre I might end up in, I think I'm more like hoping deep down inside as a singer or as a interpreter or a songwriter na people would be like, oh yeah, that sounds like Nicole. Even if I'm singing with a jazz band or
Or was
a rock
it
band.
hard? Was it hard transitioning from rock to jazz, blues?
Oh, okay. I would like to clarify that by no means do I ever claim that I am a legitimate rock singer, jazz singer, blues singer. If they want to call me that, thank you very much. But I will never call myself that because nakakahiya naman sa mga legends natin. And I'm grateful that many of them I have watched, befriended, and established a working relationship with. I'm very grateful to them because I learned from them. But I am not like a particular kind. Like, nahiya naman ako, right? But I remember my first gig, my first big band gig. And Michael Guevara, who's my sax player and sometimes my MD for certain shows, he saw me nervous outside. I didn't want to go back in the rehearsal hall. And he said, what are you nervous about? I'm like, don't mind me, I always get nervous before any gig. And he was just like, and I was like, but I'm not a real jazz singer. Like, why am I doing this? Like, I know it's an event, but like, oh, nakakahiya, you know. And he's just like, Nick, di ba you like classical? And I'm like, well, more my family, but I appreciate it. And he's like, but you get it. You grew up around it. I'm like, yeah, I understand. And he goes, di ba you like rock? I'm like, yeah, I love rock. I'll always love rock. He goes, then you should love jazz because jazz has the discipline of classical with the freedom of rock and roll. And that stuck in my head. And I said, let's go. And he goes, don't sing, just tell a story.
Just tell a story.
So I was like, okay, let's do this, you know? So I went back in there and I was just having a blast. And thank God may mga nasa audience na naniwala naman sa akin. Kahit paano. At, you know, the gigs came and I started to do more and more of the big band stuff. Not like hardcore jazz, but like, you know, the big band standards sort of thing. And then I started to incorporate elements of it into my original music. So like, you know, it could be like a soul groove, very simple, but with like a few tasty jazz chords thanks to the musicians I work with, or like a horn section in a rock-based song. So there are elements of it. I am very much a fusion type artist in terms of inclination. So I don't think I'm very associated with one genre and one genre only. Yun.
Well, mga katribu, I am hoping that 30 years from now, YouTube is still alive, and this footage is still alive, and Nicole and I would be in my 60s by then. Nicole and I will watch it again and be like, remember when you said this? Remember when you said that? Now look where you are.
Oh wow, I would be honored if you know those moments could be preserved in time. Thank you.
I hope it gets preserved, really, because, you know, these are things that when we look back on them, we're like, Really? You said that?
Yeah. No, I like that because for me, every opportunity, like when I get to do these interviews or I get to be on stage or on screen, that's always a blessing. Like even kung kahit mahirap, kahit umiiyak na ako kasi I don't think I can get through it, I'm always taking pictures. And my friends get annoyed, like, ano ba, put the phone down. And I'm just like, yeah, I'll put it down. But sorry, I have to capture this moment because I really like looking back.
Yes.
I really like looking back, especially when, like, you know, the social media memories 1 year ago, 10 years ago come out. I'm like, oh, that's so cool, you know. I don't always post it, but I look back. Because
It's just
I
for
like,
you.
yeah, I like
just
to
for you.
see the trajectory of, wow, I thought I'd be here, but I'm here pala. Cool, diba?
It's true. It's true. Like, we don't know what's coming. We have a path that we sort of planned out for ourselves, and then when we look back, oh, look at where I am. This is not where I thought I would be, but this is awesome.
Yeah,
On the flip side, there's also the I'm still not yet there,
yes,
but I will get there.
right,
That's
right.
that's the best part of it.
Well, I don't think I'll ever have that feeling na, oh, I'm here na. You know, because like, I don't know, for me, there's always something to learn eh.
Yeah, there's always.
So
something.
ayoko din tanggapin yung feeling na, oh, nandito na ako, guys. Hindi, bawal yan sa akin eh. Kasi
Totoo.
there's always more to do, more to improve.
You know, when I see other writers that I have read when I was younger, actually, industry insiders know this. Even Mirza knows this. I told her that when I was a child, I would read her magazine, and I would take with me the best practices I could find. And sometimes I would have imaginary conversations with her when I didn't know her. then.
Wow, wow,
Yes.
that's amazing.
And to have her sitting where you're sitting now,
Yeah.
interviewing her, it was a surreal experience for
She's
me.
absolutely iconic.
She is. And
yeah.
for all that I've come a long way from starting just writing and driving, and I am where I am now, under no circumstances do I think, andito na ako. Or
Yeah,
I've arrived. No.
No, it can't be that
When
way.
I see the people I look up to, I'm always thrilled to have them, thrilled to interview them, thrilled to spend time with them. But there's also a little kid in me that's like,
Yeah.
You
That's
know.
important. It's always important to be grateful. Gratitude, attitude talaga. Especially to the people who helped you when you know, when you were starting out or when
Yes.
you didn't, you know, when you're in a rough spot. And it's so important because once you lose touch with that, nothing you have matters.
that's true. Gratitude is the best attitude, mga katribu. Now, I'm gonna be asking.
Sure.
You have performed in several countries across the world. Several. What was it like? I'm not even gonna ask you what's your favorite country because that's not a fair
Yeah,
question.
No, it's not fair. I love them all.
Not even in terms of being an artist, but which country did you enjoy the most? Not in terms of performance, just in general. Which country was it that you wanted to visit and managed to visit and you were like, I love it here?
Ooh, again, that's a really tough question because every country I've been to has something beautiful to offer. And, you know, all those snapshots and memories are equally great to me. But I think maybe I'll mention one because I was with my mom,
Okay.
and that meant a lot to me. So we did a fundraiser show with my friend Joseph, who's a fashion designer who promotes Filipino weaves. Like,
Okay.
I'm wearing Happy Andrada today. She's also a fashion designer who promotes Filipino weaves. But that is something I do.
Shout out to Happy Andrada.
Hey, Happy.
Hey.
Shout out to Joseph Aloysius.
I love your stuff, Happy.
Yeah, me too.
I will buy someday.
Yes, you should.
I
should.
would.
And yeah, I mean, okay, so a little bit about that. When I'm performing, especially abroad, I really like to wear Filipino designers.
Of course.
As much as I can. If I can't, then okay, but I will always try and push for it. Anyway, we're doing a show in the UK, and my mom came.
All right.
And it was so cool because it was the first time that my mom and I got to really bond and enjoy a mother-daughter thing. So the rest of my friends who were part of the production also, they wanted to, you know, do the club scene in London. But
Yeah.
me naman as kind of like, well, I'm with my mom. I want to kind of do something mother-daughtery. And so we took a train to Paris, and there was no plan, no hotel, like super random with all our maletas. It was so cinematic because we didn't have a place to stay. And then we got there, and then we went to this cafe which had an extra room owned by the owner, Gilles, who was recommended by a French friend here.
Okay.
And, you know, I didn't have his number. It was just so blah, you know,
So
which is so
random
not
and
me because I like
impulsive.
to plan. But
Yes.
this was impulsive, and I was like praying, I'm like, Lord, I hope this works out because I'm with my mom. So nakakahiya, but,
Yeah.
you know, mahassle siya. And we were in the cafe, and Gilles wasn't there, and I was going around going, Gilles, and nobody knew what I was talking about. Finally, this man comes along, and he looked like he stepped out of a GQ magazine or something, and I was like, wow, who's this guy, you know? And it was Gilles.
All right.
Nothing further, obviously. and he has a lovely wife, beautiful wife, and the couple showed us to our room, and I said, wow, this is a great, beautiful room in a great location. How much is it? Because I can't afford it, right? And he goes, oh, no. This is my place. You're an artist. I want to house you for the next few nights for free. He goes, I only ask for one thing in return. And he showed me a wall of all the musicians, artists, painters from around the world that they have Polaroids.
Yes.
And he made like an art installation of
Yes.
them. He goes, I just want your Polaroid with your mom up there. And I was like, really? Because I feel kind of jahe. And then he's like, no, it's really what I do. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, that was such a memorable trip because I got to bond with my mom. I went to the Dali Museum, which
Okay.
this, you know, happened. And yeah, it was a great experience. And I hope I get to do more of it because I live for that stuff. I love performing and sharing music with new audiences.
I'm sure. Now, since you've traveled internationally for work, and you've opened for international acts such as Slash, Mr. Big, and worked with Justin Bieber's producer, Blue Hamilton, apparently. What was the project with Mr. Hamilton?
So he actually hit me up on Instagram DMs, but he'd been here to the Philippines before, and I hadn't met him during that time. So he hit me up. He happened to like my voice, and I chatted with him, not expecting a reply because, I mean, hello. And he replied, and we became friends via WhatsApp, I think, and we were just doing video calls, and I said, yo, let's collab. And he was like, okay, and so I sent him 4 demos of different songs, and he said, I like this one. So it's a song called See Through, and I wrote a draft of the song and sent it to him, and he produced it, and we released it March of 2021.
Awesome.
So, yeah, hopefully it opens more doors to more producers here and abroad that I would love to work with.
Great. Oh, speaking of producers and all that, during your career, you bagged out with awards for Best Jazz. And can you tell us about your other awards?
Oh, well, that one was for the song Poblacion, which is an original composition with my co-writers Ramiru and Norris Lopez. And we really wrote it as a duet, and we really wanted Chito Miranda as the guy. Because the lyrics are kind of funny and kenkoy. You know.
That's very Chito. That's very
Yeah,
Chito.
there was no one else in mind. Like, had Chito declined the project, I was like, I don't want to do it. And thank God, Chito is the sweetest. He's one of the sweetest people in the music industry. And he said yes to my very whiskeyed up midnight conversation. I just dialed his phone, not expecting him to answer. And he answered, and he said yes. And we were fortunate enough to have the late Miss Sherry Hill, who's a great influence of mine. She starred in our music video. So that was such a blessing that Tita Sherry, yes, I'm allowed to call her Tita because she's a family friend. She gave me that permission, said yes, and she cleared her schedule for us. So that was amazing. And yeah, you can check it out on YouTube. It's called Poblacion.
Sherry was such a loss. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I love her very much. I love her family. Her niece is my best friend, Max Eigenman. So yeah, hey Max.
All right, and we will continue this when Spotlight returns.
Nasa kamay mo ang swerte, ngunit hindi ito isang laro na para lang sa'yo. Dahil bukod sa pag-asang maging milyonaryo, ang pagtangkilik mo sa loto at ipapang produkto ng PCSO ay nakakalikom ng pondo para sa mga programang pangkalusugan, tulong at serbisyong medikal at kawang-gawa.
Kasal, lahat ng minimithi makakamtan sa PCSO.
Hello mga katribu, still with me is Nicole Laurel.
Hi!
Hey!
Hope you guys are okay. Dami nating
Ang
kwento.
dami nating kwento. But this, this is so much fun. Having someone like Nicole as a guest, sobrang engaging. I love her. So now,
too.
as an actress, you were nominated for the FAMAS Best Actress Award and Best New Actress sa PMPC Star Awards for playing Lara in the Vince Tañada historical musical, Katips. What steps did you take to prepare for the role?
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to Direct Vince Tañada because I came in from the cold. I have never done a film. I've done cameos in films for friends, but I've never immersed in a film in my life. And Katips is based on a stage play that has quite a big following. And the lead actress who played the role of Lara is now based in the States. So I was filling her role, which is not an easy thing to do for a first-time
How so?
actress. Well, of course, because the play has a following, so the play is used to the cast. Like, they want to see that cast because they're
Yes.
fans of the material. But they did have to recast a few of the roles for the film, and I went in there and I auditioned for Direct Vince, just like everybody else. I was recommended by Tito Ricky Gallardo, and I sang, and I wasn't expecting anything, also because the role of Lara is quite young.
Okay.
She's written to be quite young, so I wasn't sure if vocally or aesthetically I would be a match. But I got the role, and I was like, oh my gosh.
You know,
This is it.
I saw you transition from like a girl living in a different country to knowing what your father was doing,
Yeah.
and the fact that it was no spoilers for those who haven't seen it, but seeing you transform from the social uptown girl from overseas type to being an activist, it was a metamorphosis on screen that you were able to do quite well.
Thank you so much. I have to thank you for that because we shot 80% of all my scenes in one day. Because, Katips was really a passion advocacy project of Direct Vince, and that was out of his pocket. So the entire film was shot in 6 days.
Wow.
And all Lara's scenes were almost in one location, the house location.
house.
And that was 80%. So all the shifts, the character shifts, were in one day. And because I was a replacement, well, hindi naman a replacement, but I was filling in a role. Wala akong time mag-workshop. So it was a very quick process. We learned the songs maybe 1 to 2 weeks ahead. We recorded it because it is a musical. So, the songs are foremost in this kind of production. And then I had never met my leading man in the film, Jerome, before. The day I met him is the day I kissed him. So, there's no prep for that. Yeah, you just go in there and you do your work.
But I think that kind of helped.
It does. It does.
Because
I mean, it's fresh.
You're supposed to be strangers from different worlds.
Yes.
You were from overseas. He's from here. And I
Right.
think kissing him, the day you met him for the first time actually translated well on screen.
Thank you. I hope it did. And, I had, it was such an experience shooting this because I'm a live performer by nature. So I didn't know the technical lingo of camera angles. I'm not
Yes.
used to doing several takes and holding the emotion for something. These are actor things
Yes.
that I was not as hasa with. But my gosh, that film, like, I learned so much. I had done one acting job before that as a support character, and I learned a lot from Direct Vince and the team because we had to work fast. You don't get a take two unless it's necessary. So you need to deliver.
Unless it's really bad.
Yeah, unless it's like something happened with the,
or
the
something
audio
fell or
yeah.
something, there's a technical difficulty.
You don't really get as many takes as you want to really perfect it. So the rawness of it is what you will see.
So
in
it was like
Katips.
on-screen theater
Yes, a lot of
with-
it.
with minimal take twos because
Minimal,
in theater
yeah.
there's no take two. But
Right.
it's almost like the same approach, except there are camera angles and stuff. Because as much as possible, everything was done in a single. Everything was done take one.
Almost everything. I mean, save for a few instances. But I think the nature of how Katips was written is like a musical also. So maybe that aspect of it kind of worked together because it is a musical. Obviously, the songs were pre-recorded. I
Yes,
mean,
of course.
So that part was kind of like music video style. But yeah, sobrang learning experience yung Katips sa akin. And thankfully, it opened the doors, hopefully, to more films. So let's see. I'm enjoying the process. So hopefully, people give me a chance. We'll see.
All right, I'm glad you are. So speaking of more projects, who are the actors you wish to work with?
Locally, this is so funny because God's so good. Because I always wanted to work with Piolo.
And
And we are working together and on stage naman. So Piolo is gonna be playing our Ibarra in the stage musical of Ibarra. And I have just been cast as Sisa.
As Sisa.
So that is one of the dream roles I've always wanted to play because my grandma Fides played Sisa back in her time, and it is
more than 50 times, you said.
yeah, it's a challenging role, and I'm excited because it's gonna be a process. I can feel it already.
Yeah, I was with Piolo yesterday.
Really? Oh, yeah.
At the event, no, he's. One of the greatest things I love about that guy is napaka-gracious na tao.
I've not met him yet, but he seems like
He
an
is
angel.
very gracious. He's smiling at everybody. He makes everybody feel welcome. All right, so what message do you have for our viewers and your fans?
Thank you. I just want to say thank you. Through thick and through thin, the people who I've, been fortunate enough to share experiences with, to meet, to learn from. Thank you for sticking by me. For those who did stick by me, thank you for the lessons that I learned. And I hope that, inspiration will always be a part of our lives, your lives, and my life, and that we continue to create no matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody says about us, no matter what limitations are thrown our way by society. Continue to create, continue to uplift, continue to encourage. We will all make mistakes. I have made so many. But I know now that we are not the sum of our mistakes.
Oh.
And our mistakes are there to encourage us to continue. And I'm so thankful for those who continue with me. So, tara, let's make more artistic things happen in the near future.
All right, and there you have it, mga katribu, Nicole Laurel.
Thank you
Thank you so much for
Matthew.
coming, and I hope you had as much fun as I did.
I did. I'm still having fun.
I'm
Thank you.
glad you did.
Thank you for this.
So, catch fresh episodes of Spotlight every Wednesdays at 2 p.m. On the Daily Tribune's Facebook page or Tribune Now on YouTube. Once again, this has been Matthew Pirante-Pérez. See you next episode.
Bye.
Bye.